Public Affairs Forum. I'm Sue Thomas, President-elect of City Club, filling in for Board President Jim Zarin, and I welcome you all. Those of you here at the Governor Hotel, and those of you listening to OPB radio or watching on cable television. We're glad that you're here with us for our program today, Friday the 19th of September, 2008. Today's program will feature the first of several debates that City Club is hosting during election season. A debate between Amanda Fritz and Charles Lewis for Portland City Council seat number 1, the seat currently held by Mayor-elect Sam Adams. However, before I introduce our moderator and begin our debate today, I want to remind all of us that the mission of City Club is a twofold one. First, to inform our members in the community regarding public issues, and second, to engage our members in the community to become involved in those issues as citizens. I mention this because we cannot achieve City Club's mission if we're not open to information, views, arguments, and messengers that are different from our predisposed personal opinions and preferences. As such, I ask all in the room to remain courteous and respectful regarding the information conveyed and all the views expressed by both candidates today during the debate, even when you disagree with what they have to say. In doing this, you will help us further the kind of civil discourse of public issues that City Club stands for, and you will honor our guest debaters, our own process, and the interests of our community. I also want to thank City Club's corporate sponsors, without whose generous financial support these programs would not be possible. This quarter's Friday Forum corporate sponsors are the law firm of Stoll Reeves, LLP, Neil Kelly Company, City Center Parking, and West Coast Bank. We thank them all for their support. And now to introduce our moderator. Rod Grammer is the Executive News Director at KGW Northwest News Channel 8. His previous experience includes being the Executive News Director at KTVB, the NBC affiliate in Boise, Idaho, and serving as editorial page editor for the Idaho Statesman, Idaho's largest paper. He is also a founding board member of the Boise City Club, which took its lead from the Portland City Club in sponsoring issues such as discussions such as these on issues important to the community. Turn it over to Rod.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. This is my third appearance here, and it's always a treat to be at the City Club. This debate will have several sections today. First, each candidate will give a 3-minute opening statement. A coin toss has determined the order of appearance in this debate. Our timekeeper today is Joe Sitka. Thank you, Joe. Following the opening statements, candidates will respond to questions suggested in advance of this meeting by City Club's Friday Forum Committee. These are the only questions that will be asked today. There will not be any questions from the floor. We will rely on the judgment of our distinguished panel of City Club members seated at the table here below to decide whether the questions have indeed been answered by the candidates. If 2 or more of these members raise their cards indicating that they feel that a question has not been answered, I will restate the question and ask the candidate to reply again. On our panel today, we have Elaine McCall, Jeannie Crouch, and Marge Gaffori. Following the City Club's questions, each candidate will have the opportunity to ask 3 questions of the other candidate. After the rotation of candidate questions, each candidate will make a 3-minute closing statement. Please be respectful of the candidates, and please hold all applause until the end of the program. And now for the introductions. Amanda Fritz was born in England and graduated from Cambridge University with a master's degree in biological sciences. She moved to the United States in 1979 and to Portland in 1986. A registered nurse, Ms. Fritz has worked for 22 years in inpatient psychiatry at Oregon Health and Science University and served as a union steward for the Oregon Nurses Association. Ms. Fritz has been active in the local community, having co-founded and chaired the Tryon Creek Watershed Council initiated and chaired the citywide Parks Team Forum, volunteered as a tutor in the Portland Public Schools, served on the city's task force on neighborhood involvement, and served for 7 years on the Portland Planning Commission. Like her opponent, Ms. Fritz has received public money for her campaign as part of Portland's public campaign financing system. Charles Lewis is the founder and executive director of Ethos, an award-winning nonprofit music center and school devoted to giving children access to music education. He is also co-founder with his wife of Portland Duck Tours. Mr. Lewis obtained a BA in political science from the University of Portland and an MA in public policy from the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. Mr. Lewis has also served as an intern for former Senator Mark Hatfield, and as a member of the Peace Corps in the Congo, as a volunteer for Habitat for Humanity, as a legislative assistant in the Oregon legislature, and as ombudsman associate for Portland Mayor Vera Katz. Like his opponent, Mr. Lewis has received public money for this campaign as part of Portland's public campaign financing system. Will the candidates please take their respective podiums? Mr. Lewis, we'll start with you. You have a 3-minute opening statement.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today. I would like to start by recognizing 2 very important people to me, my wonderful wife, Sarah, here, and our brand new baby girl, Coakley Anna, who joined us about 3 months ago. I also want to recognize my mom, Carol Kinney, who will be listening on the internet because she is in Montana working to elect the next president of the United States, Barack Obama. I'm running for Portland City Council because I believe we need someone on City Council who has a proven track record of finding creative, innovative solutions to some of our community's greatest issues. This includes strengthening our schools, creating jobs, and fostering vibrant neighborhoods throughout the city of Portland. I'm currently the executive director of Ethos Music Center, a nonprofit that brings music education back to several thousand kids every year. I was a graduate student at Harvard University when I was hearing about the tremendous budget cuts that destroyed music education programs in the schools. Instead of cashing in on my degree after I graduated, I flew back to Portland, slept on a friend's couch, and started up this nonprofit on my credit card. 10 years later, Ethos brings music education back to 2,200 kids every year. We had a staff of 78 last year with a budget of nearly $1 million, and we have started up over 120 after-school music education programs in schools and community centers around Portland. Ethos is founded on the idea that every child deserves access to a well-rounded education. Ethos gives students and families an alternative to the streets, drugs, and violence that might otherwise rob them of their future. Programs like Ethos are examples of what innovative, dedicated people can do to improve their communities, even with very limited resources. My public service focus is largely a result of my family background. I come from a very low-income family where my mom worked 2 jobs as a waitress in order to make ends meet. I learned very early what it means to live within a budget while striving for a brighter future. I worked my way through undergrad at the University of Portland as a construction surveyor. After graduation, I served in the Peace Corps in the Congo. When I returned to Portland, I was awarded a full-ride scholarship to Harvard University, where I earned a master's degree in public policy. 2 years ago, my wife and I also started a small business called Portland Duck Tours. We used an amphibious, biodiesel-powered bus to promote tourism in Portland. We recently sold the business to focus on starting a family, but my decade of work as both a nonprofit executive and a small business owner has given me the background and experience I believe we need on Portland City Council. That includes experience meeting a payroll, managing employees, living within a budget, all combined with a dedication to public service and progressive values. Now, Portland is a great city. We do many things well.
Sorry, time's up.
Okay, thank you very much.
Ms. Fritz, 3 minutes.
Thank you, City Club, and thank you all for being here today. I am proud to call myself a community organizer. I am the woman I am today because for 22 years I have lived in Portland, raised children in Portland, worked a swing shift job as a registered nurse, and immersed myself in solving problems that matter to Portlanders. I am ready to serve the people of Portland as your next commissioner. Portland needs the fifth person on the City Council to provide vision and direction from a different perspective. I want more people to share the benefits of living in our beautiful city. Portland in 4 years should be a more equitable place where every family feels safe at home, every neighborhood looks like the city government cares about the people living and working there, and every resident believes that the public safety system is working to protect them. Portland in 4 years should have a plan for paying for basic infrastructure like streets, sidewalks, bridges, affordable housing, and parks. Portland in 4 years should have adopted the Portland Plan with implementation actions and funding tied to aspirations, so we don't promise improvements then fail to deliver. I will prioritize city funding so that all 95 neighborhoods and 35 business districts get their fair share and have all their essential needs met. Public safety and well-maintained streets and sidewalks are needed in every neighborhood and business district. The city should spend its $3 billion budget to buy the things we need first. I will push for more audits of city projects and for accountability and follow-through when audits are completed. I will ensure that money is spent efficiently with maximum benefit to the community. I will improve our local economy by increasing fairness in business taxes, attracting and retaining both large and small companies. I will protect family wage jobs, expand school-to-work apprenticeships, and pursue mechanisms to ensure that city contracts employ more Portland residents. I served on the Portland Planning Commission for 7 years. I understand the importance of businesses to Portland's economy. We sometimes seem to consider ourselves so progressive that business is almost a dirty word. But in fact, business means jobs. Portland needs more prosperous companies employing workers with well-paying jobs. Some of our challenge with affordable housing is due to so many of our jobs being minimum wage. My plan for improving the business climate here in Portland will help correct that problem. For 17 years, I volunteered in Portland Public Schools. I will work to improve and strengthen partnerships between the city, our 5 public school districts, and community and government providers. I will implement key strategies necessary for the city to support our schools and colleges. Portland is a wonderful place for many residents, employers, and workers. We can do even better so that more people enjoy its benefits and contribute to its prosperity. I will work to help accomplish that goal.
Thank you very much. We will now move to that portion of the program where I will ask questions prepared in advance by the City Club of Portland's Friday Forum Committee. The candidate to whom the question is directed will have 60 seconds to respond to the question. Following each answer, the opposing candidate will have the option of a 45-second rebuttal. The candidates have not seen these questions in advance. Mr. Lewis, we will begin with you. Like your opponents, your campaign seems to be focused on what's wrong with city government and what you want to do to fix it if elected. We'd like to hear about what you like about Portland's government and why you want to be part of it.
I think on the contrary, my campaign is really about what we can do better. You know, I've talked about some of the things. We can create more jobs here in Portland. There's the opportunity, we've got the revolving loan fund through PDC and the city where we can create more jobs by having loans for businesses. We have a great opportunity as well with the Children's Investment Fund passed by Commissioner Saltzman and championed by him. And that's coming up for renewal. That's a great thing that the city does, something that should be renewed here in Portland. So my campaign is about making Portland an even better place. You know, we've got this opportunity as well with the Portland Plan coming up for renewal, and the idea of a 20-minute walkable community throughout Portland is brilliant, and we need to focus on that and make sure we have these walkable communities throughout Portland and give everybody access to these great communities.
Ms. Fritz?
We have many wonderful things that bless us here in Portland. We have many elected officials who are doing a great job of helping our communities work together, and we can do even better with that. But I'm very impressed with the goodwill that I've been given over the past several months, and in particular, looking forward to working with the current City Council. We do have a good mix of folks on that council, and I can add that fifth perspective, which will make it even better. As a parent in Portland Public Schools for 17 years, I can tell you we still have wonderful Portland Public Schools in all 5 districts, turning out kids who are doing great things. And I will be a cheerleader and a collaborator with the school districts to make sure that we continue to do that.
Thank you. Ms. Fritz, the second question goes to you. Many outside observers believe that the City Council lacks unity and a shared sense of direction and purpose in managing the city and tackling its problems. Spending decisions often don't seem to match clear needs. What is your opinion about how this council seems to be functioning?
Any group can always work together better, and as a psychiatric nurse and a mom, I've had a lot of experience helping people work together. And my approach will be a little different, and I think that will be helpful. I believe we need to use the Portland Plan to set priorities. The Portland Plan is supposed to have implementation actions. It's supposed to have funding actions. And will be working together with the community to make sure that this massive plan, which is going to affect every region of the city, does indeed bring citizens and every stakeholder to the table, and then plan and fund implementation actions. What we need is a strategic plan for the implementation.
Mr. Lewis?
You know, we've got a new member on, Commissioner Fish, who I think will bring a lot to the City Council as well, and I think we're going to see a new era of collaboration. I have run Ethos Music Center, the nonprofit, and we started off with zero, just my credit card, and we had volunteers, and so we collaborated as a group, made sacrifices, and we're able to create this incredible organization that has twice been selected as one of the top after-school arts programs in the entire United States, and it's that level of collaboration and working together that I would really like to take to the Portland City Council, because we are all in this together, and I think we can do some great things.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis, next question is yours. You are an advocate for more affordable housing in Portland. What are your specific goals for an increase in affordable housing units, and how specifically would such housing be paid for?
Mm-hmm. With affordable housing, we've got a great opportunity with the 30% set aside by PDC to create more affordable housing in urban renewal areas with our TIF dollars. And so what I have been proposing is that we work with BHCD and PDC together collaboratively to help implement some of these, some more affordable housing. So specifically, we need more affordable housing because families are being forced out of Portland because they cannot afford to live here anymore. Jefferson High School is about a quarter full because families are being forced out of inner Portland, and David Douglas School District is bursting at the seams. So we need to address it. We've got a great opportunity with the 30% set aside, and I believe that when we implement that, create more affordable housing for everybody, that we can stabilize our schools, we can stabilize our neighborhoods, and allow people, working families and seniors to stay here in Portland.
Thank you. Ms. Fritz?
I will work with Commissioner Nick Frisch to improve the delivery system in partnership with the folks who have done the CLEG study. And my mentor, Gretchen Kafori, says that the underlying problem is and has been for many years the lack of funding at the federal and state level. I support the document recording fee so that we will have $100 million of new money with a very modest increase in the document recording fee for home sales to go to affordable housing. And I will coordinate with Metro and the counties and the community providers on supportive housing for people with mental illnesses. We can't just house people and not give them services. We have to provide services in the community. And I will help revise the land use codes to decrease the building footprints to require more smaller affordable houses.
Thank you. Ms. Fritz, you have argued that the city should not focus on its should focus on its core mission and not, in your words, quote, spend millions on fancy extras, end quote. In your view, what are those fancy extras that you wouldn't pay for, and what is the dollar amount of those fancy extras and their percentage of the city's budget?
Well, for the past 2 years almost, every week I've been reviewing the City Council agenda on my blog, amandafritz.com. So every week I've scrutinized every single item on the City Council agenda to see where the big money is going and where the little money is going. An obvious example that I was opposed to 2 years ago was the tram, which the Planning Commission recommended to the council should not be built without a better cost-benefit analysis. It turns out that that fancy extra is really doing a lot of good things in South Waterfront, and I recognize that. However, the cost when the Planning Commission reviewed it was $9 million. It was $15 million by the time it got to City Council, and it was $57 million by the time it was built. I will make sure that contracts are reviewed before they run that much over budget, and so that we have better control over the things that we are spending money on.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis?
Yeah.
I guess we need to ask that question again.
Ask me the question again.
I'll restate it. You have argued that the city should focus on its core mission and not, in your words, quote, spend millions on fancy extras, end quote. In your view, what are those fancy extras that you wouldn't pay for, and what is the dollar amount of those fancy extras and their percentage of the city's budget?
That is really not a question that could be answered in 60 seconds. But in the past, I've been criticized for going into too much detail. I could certainly give you more detail given the time to research that. I thought I'd give you a specific example with the tram. Moving forward, I see the question. Moving forward, we need to go back to prioritizing basic services, and particularly sidewalks to schools is one core service that I would fund over some of the more expensive transportation options, which, while certainly bringing other values to our neighborhoods in terms of economic development, don't enable children to walk to school and thus combating global warming. I think in the very big dollar figure expenditures like the big bridge and other major expenditures, we need to be much more careful.
Okay, Mr. Lewis, you get to rebut that.
I think one project moving forward that we really need to evaluate is the Burnside Couplet and the benefits, $50–60 million for that project alone. So that's one in particular for transportation. We have a $9 million shortfall every year with our streets and transportation infrastructure. I think we should be spreading this money out throughout the city of Portland and focusing on neighborhoods. I live in the Cully neighborhood on a dirt road, no sidewalks in our area, and really there are parts of town that have been left out. I think it makes economic sense to have this basic infrastructure spread throughout the city of Portland and not just in specific areas.
Thank you very much. This next question needs a little setup for the benefit of our audience. First, there's a distinction between traded sector and non-traded sector businesses. Businesses in the traded sector sell their goods and services primarily to customers outside the region, bringing in new income that gets respent locally, prompting economic growth through the multiplier effect. In contrast, businesses in the non-traded sector primarily sell to customers within the region, and their collective growth is largely tied to population growth in the region. What specifically can City Council do to attract and maintain traded sector businesses that bring in new money from customers outside the region and serve as an engine for the city's economic growth? Mr. Lewis?
One extremely important thing that we must do is preserve our industrial area. On the Central East Side, there's some discussion about creating more housing in the Central Industrial East Side corridor, and we need to preserve that. Portland is very unique in that it has these pockets of industrial land where we can manufacture things and really export them outside of the region, bringing in more money into the region. So that's one specific way. Protect the industrial land that we have. Make sure we're able to create things, not just trade money around within the city of Portland.
Thank you. Ms. Fritz?
We need to correct the perception that the city is anti-business, and I will take a lead on that as the city commissioner to make sure that when companies are seeking to relocate in Portland, that I'm available personally to the Portland Development Commission and to staff so that they know that I will be part of recruiting those companies. We need to fund basic services so that companies know that we have good schools and good jobs and good education for those jobs. The Portland Development Commission did a study and it found that, in fact, companies wanting to relocate to Portland, they care about the same things the rest of us care about: sidewalks and good streets and parking and freight movement. We need to make sure that we have those things. And finally, I would help to implement the City Club's Business Climate Report recommendations and all the other studies that have been done providing adopted recommendations.
Thank you. Ms. Fritz, this is another business-related question. You say that businesses, particularly small businesses, are hindered by complicated and conflicting sets of regulations from different bureaus. What did you do during your 7 years on the Portland Planning Commission to try to improve the situation?
I was one of the people who invited other staff other than from the Planning and Development Review Systems to come into the Planning Commission and tell us, for instance, with development services and parks. I worked on the stormwater manual, which streamlined and improved the codes that deal with what you do with the runoff from your property or from transportation systems. I worked on the environmental zone laws to make it very much clearer what is expected and what could be done by right, by standards. And I worked on the land division code, where we put in place a lot of standards rather than discretionary reviews. What I can do as a city commissioner is make sure that the bureaus work together more seamlessly. Again, that was mentioned in the City Club's business report. We have the form of government that we have. We've done the charter review discussion, and we're not going to be changing our form of government. I, as a city commissioner, need to be sure that my staff and in my bureaus are talking with the other bureaus and providing that seamless distribution system.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis?
I have run a small business in Portland. I've run a nonprofit as well in Portland, and so I know that it is very difficult to do business here. And some things that I would like to see: one, streamline the permitting process. In addition, small business loans. This is very low-risk loans that the city can really invest in small businesses. They make up the lifeblood of our economy, and it's well protected as well. We also need to fix the business license fee, make sure that we are not forcing businesses out of Portland. Columbia Sportswear is a prime example. And first day in office, I will call up Columbia Sportswear, apologize for the city for having chased them off, and ask them to come back here to Portland.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis, it's no secret that Commissioner Randy Leonard and Police Chief Rosie Sizer have been at odds with each other. Should Mayor-elect Sam Adams risk losing a well-regarded police chief by putting Commissioner Leonard in charge of the police bureau, keep the bureau in the mayor's office, or assign the bureau to another commissioner?
I think that Rosie has done an incredible job as chief of police. It's been a new era, and she has brought some new life and vitality to the police department. So I don't want to lose her as a citizen and as a member of the city council. I don't think that we needed to be in this position where we've got city commissioner battling the chief. I don't think it needed to be that way. I hope we can work something out, and so that she can stay. I think realistically, it is going to be the mayor who is going to be called on the carpet if there is an incident with police. The mayor's going to be the one that the press goes to, that the people go to. So I think in reality, he may have to keep the police, or it's going to have problems for him later.
Ms. Fritz?
I support Chief Sizer. I think she's doing a very good job, and I'm looking forward to working with her. I believe that the mayor should keep the police in his portfolio. All of the commissioners do help with the police anyway. The commissioner in charge of parks is certainly involved. The commissioner in charge of helping homeless people is involved. All of the council needs to work together much better to address some of the issues that we have had with our police, both supporting them and making sure that they do the job that we want them to do in the community. I will be part of that. In the primary, I had suggested that I would be interested in being in charge of the police bureau. I'm certainly not going to wade into that one with a 10-foot pole at this point. But as a psychiatric nurse who deals with many of the same clients in the community, I have had experience knowing what it's like to fear for your life when you go to work.
Ms. Fritz, compared to Los Angeles, Portland has, on a per capita basis, nearly twice as many burglaries and nearly 3 times as many larceny thefts. What should be done to improve Portland's comparably poor crime statistics?
Well, that's just one statistic, and other measurements are down. However, it goes back to my core message: we need to fund basic services in every neighborhood. It's not okay that we have an area of the town that has been known as felony flats for many years. It's not okay that we have areas of the town where people don't feel that the city police are looking after them and respecting them. So we need to fund training. We need to make sure that positions get filled quicker, and we need to involve the community. The recent efforts on 82nd Avenue, where the Montevilla and Madison South neighborhoods are coming together to help solve a community problem, not expecting the police to do everything, being partners with the police, and having very intense and sometimes heated discussions on how that would happen, is an excellent example of community policing at its best, where the elected officials and the police chief and the officers and the community are working together to fix difficult problems.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis?
I think we must invest more in our police force, especially to get more community policing, get the police out of their cars, walking the streets and interacting with business owners and individuals in the communities. It makes for a much better experience for everybody. In addition, I think we need to encourage police officers to live in Portland, because right now about half of the police officers don't live in Portland, and if they did, I think there would be a better empathy and, just more interaction with people in the community. As well, I think for City Council in particular, we need to back the police. If there is an incident, it shouldn't not be just jump on the police and assume they're at fault, but let the process go through, see if there is someone at fault, and not be on the attack all the time.
Afraid out of time. Mr. Lewis, what is your opinion of the proposed $4.2 billion bridge across the Columbia River? If you support it, where specifically will the money come from? If you oppose it, how would you improve the huge bottleneck on I-5?
The what was
The bottleneck on I-5.
Okay.
If you oppose it, how?
I have lived in North and Northeast Portland for the past 18 years, so I understand that something absolutely must be done. Its congestion has gotten out of control. Safety is a big issue as well. So I do support a bridge across the Columbia River. And specifically, though, the deal breakers for me, it must have light rail, it must have bike and pedestrian access, and it must have congestion-based tolling, because the overall goal of this bridge should be to reduce the number of vehicle miles driven and to reduce carbon emissions, not to increase them. So in terms of the overall cost, the $4 billion, about a third of it will come from the federal government. This is great investment into our region during very difficult economic times. In addition, the congestion-based tolling will pay for about a third, and then with funds from the state as well. I believe that users should pay, that tolls should help pay for a large portion of this bridge.
Ms. Fritz?
Well, the City Council has adopted unanimously support for the bridge with about 6 pages of conditions. So I see my role as making sure that those conditions are fully fleshed out and met. For the past 4 years, I've been a board member with the Coalition for a Livable Future, which took the lead on questioning whether the bridge is actually going to help with global warming and/or congestion and freight management. We need to be very careful in making these decisions as we move forward. Where is the money coming from? The state legislature has not yet promised their 1/3 share, or the 1/6 share, because it's split between Oregon and Washington. And what will not get done if the big bridge is done? We also need to invest in freight movement by rail, and we need to be very seriously looking at rail connections, both for passengers and freight.
Thank you. Ms. Fritz, this question goes to you. Commissioner Randy Leonard wants to create a satellite urban renewal district in outer southeast Portland using tax proceeds from the River District, which includes the Pearl District, to build a new school in the David Douglas School District. Many lawyers and urban renewal experts argue that this reallocation is a clear violation of state law. Where do you stand on that issue?
The council approved that resolution, that ordinance 5-0. And so as I just said, and my job is going to be to help implement. I would have been a no vote on that. I think it's clearly not legal under state law right now, and I'm very upset that we're going to be using our political capital in Salem to be changing urban renewal laws, which affect 58 other cities and counties in the state. It's unfortunate. Furthermore, it doesn't do what it needs to do in terms of providing a school for David Douglas in a reasonable time frame. There are other mechanisms that council could and should, and if I were on it would, have chosen to fund the necessary school for the David Douglas district using a different mechanism than urban renewal, because urban renewal is not supposed to be for schools.
Mr. Lewis.
I think we need to recognize that City Council is partly responsible for the overcrowding in the David Douglas School District because families are being pushed out to the outer edges of Portland because they can't afford to live here anymore. So I'm conflicted because on one respect, we absolutely should help the school district create a new school because it's overcrowded. In the same time, the satellite urban renewal districts, to me, it's opening a Pandora's box. If it does get struck down and the school district does not have their new school, I will search high and low for funding to make sure that they are given a school out there. I think it's the right thing to do and something we must do, considering that we've forced so many families out of the inner parts of Portland.
Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to move into a new section of our program where the candidates ask each other questions. During this portion of the program, each candidate will ask 3 questions of the other. Questions must be asked in 30 seconds. The opposing candidate will have 1 minute to respond, after which the questioner will have the option of a 30-second rebuttal. We will alternate between the candidates, and we will begin with Ms. Fritz.
Charles, what are the most important working relationships that you would bring to the council?
I think there's some great working relationships. President of Metro, David Bragdon, has endorsed my campaign, and I think that will help me really think regionally about some of the issues that affect Portland. You know, that is water quality, that is livability in Portland and the surrounding areas. You know, all of these things, transportation issues are really tied together, so that is one relationship that I will bring to it. In addition, quite a bit of experience working with City Council over the past 10 years with my experience with Ethos. You know, on one project, I got every single city commissioner in support of a project that Ethos was moving forward. And again, it's about that collaboration. It's about working together to tackle community concerns. And it's something that I've had a proven track record of doing in the community.
Thank you. Ms. Fritz?
So for 17 years, I've been participating actively in city, county, and metro issues. I've worked with staff in the bureaus, I've worked with directors, and I've worked with many of the people on the city council. So I have partnerships within the community, which is evidenced by my success in the primary with people knowing who I am and what my purpose in running for, and also by the endorsements that I've received from elected officials throughout the region. I want to make sure that we do bring all partners to the table and that we have working relationships with even more people as we move forward.
Mr. Lewis, your first question.
Great. And I'd like to go back to the Columbia River crossing because I wasn't sure I got your answer exactly. You know, we've heard the public testimony. The council has voted. How would you have voted on the Columbia River crossing proposal?
I would have voted no because I think that there needs to be more discussion on exactly what is being proposed and how it's going to work. We still have a lot more work to do in figuring out how changes on Hayden Island are going to be managed, what's going to happen to West Hayden Island with the port's expansion, and how does that fit in with the bridge, and particularly how are we going to pay for it. We don't know how we're going to pay for it yet. Certainly something needs to be done, and certainly the committee looked at various options diligently over 3 years, and Commissioner Adams is very clear that this was the option that he wants to pursue, and I will respond to his leadership. We still need to make sure that those 6 pages of conditions are met, and they have very serious conditions, including not adding to global warming, not adding to congestion, looking at light rail and pedestrian and freight and bicycle facilities on that bridge. There's a lot more work to do.
Mr. Lewis?
Again, having lived in North and Northeast Portland for 18 years, I deal with the congestion every day, as a lot of people do. It is a bottleneck that has stifled our economy and will continue to grow. I believe it's something that we must tackle. There are funding opportunities available. We've got federal money coming into our community, and I think it would be wrong to turn down $4 billion of investment into our community when we have these conditions that would increase light rail opportunities, that would increase bike and pedestrian access as well.
Ms. Fritz, your next question for Mr. Lewis.
What are the values and principles you will use to guide your decision making?
Thank you very much. A lot of the values and principles I follow are fairness, equity, justice. It's the reasons I got into this race for Portland City Council. You know, I have spent the last 10 years of my life working at poverty wages to run my nonprofit Ethos to bring music education back to underserved kids, and it's that same public service focus that I would love to take to Portland City Council to really expand it and to have a much greater impact on the lives of every Portland citizen, to make this someplace everybody can afford to live in, that people can have good jobs in, and that people can have vibrant and communities.
Ms. Fritz?
When I was sworn in on the Planning Commission, I swore to uphold the long-term public good. And whenever I was making a decision, I would try to think about the long-term public good as well as the people who came in to testify. I will make decisions in open, transparent public processes so that everybody knows what's coming down the pike, everybody has an opportunity to give input at the appropriate time when their input can make a difference. I will strive for equity and judgment. I will do my homework diligently, as I always do. And I will wait till the public hearing to make my decision.
Mr. Lewis, you have the next question.
Thank you. The Portland City Council is unique in that commissioners not only act as legislators, but also bureau managers. Aside from your campaigns, what is the largest budget and the largest number of employees that you have personally managed?
As an employee of major hospitals, I haven't been in managing that budget, although as a board member of the Coalition for a Livable Future, our annual budget is $250,000, and I'm responsible for implementing that. In my nursing career, I quickly rose to management. I was responsible not only for managing staff, but also for the lives of patients. I co-founded the Tryon Creek Watershed Council, which didn't have a budget when I founded it. It now does, thanks to the voters approving a tax for it. I would suggest that if you think a challenge of managing employees and managing a budget, try doing it when you're working only with volunteers and helping them to get things done, as I have done.
Mr. Lewis?
Great, thank you. And as I said before, it is something I've done as well. You know, I started Ethos with zero. Last year we had $1 million budget, 78 employees on staff, while addressing a very critical community need. And, you know, Portland is unique in that we act as a legislator, but also as a bureau manager. With 78 employees, that's the size of most of our bureaus now. I'm ready to jump in day one and provide strategic management for some of our bureaus.
Thank you. Ms. Fritz, your question.
Charles, please talk about how wonderful public campaign financing is.
Gladly. Public financing is a wonderful thing, and I think this campaign is a great testament to it. We've had a great relationship this whole time, and we haven't seen that attack, you know, things that you see in other campaigns, and I think that's partly as a result of the public financing. It's something that I will absolutely support when it comes up when it comes to the people. That being said, there have been some issues with it over the past several months, you know, in the primary, especially concerning some oversight and things like that. I think it's a work in progress, something that I absolutely support, and I think it's really changed the political dynamic here in Portland.
I believe public campaign financing is changing things in Portland, and I believe it can change it throughout the state and throughout the country. And I want to thank the City Club and Chris Smith in particular for being the lead on this, and I have supporters from the Communication Workers of America and the Laborers 483 who also understand that public campaign financing means that people make a difference, not the money. And I really appreciate your support for it.
Mr. Lewis, you have the next question.
Over the past several years, you've expressed concerns about the City of Portland passing a children's levy to help fund programs for underserved youth. As recently as February 2008, you said, "I find it hard to justify why the City of Portland is the appropriate jurisdiction to propose the levy and manage the fund. Faced with the county's ongoing budgetary shortfalls and their inability to pay for these vital services, can you clarify your current stance on the children's levy and discuss any problems you might still have with it?"
I support the Children's Levy. I hope everyone will vote for it in November. It funds many worthy programs, including Ethos Music, which provide cost-effective services. Looking forward, we need to make sure that those services are provided in every one of the 36 counties in Oregon. If children in Portland need after-school programs and Head Start and Boys and Girls Clubs, so do children in Prineville and Pendleton. And we need to make sure that the appropriate jurisdiction is funding and managing programs that the City of Portland has done in the past, and it's been wonderful that we didn't let Portland schools and Portland's children go down the tubes just because the state would not fund it. I've talked with Commissioner Saltzman and with Commissioner Kogan so that we can start working in the legislature so that we don't have to renew the Children's Investment Fund in another 4 years, so that we ask the state to fund it as it should.
Mr. Lewis?
Thank you for your support. It's a wonderful program. It reaches 16,000 underserved kids every year. I'd urge you to vote for it as well. I believe that it is the proper jurisdiction for this program. It has been extremely efficient with the limited public dollars. It amounts to about $5 a month for an average family in Portland. They have kept administrative costs below 5%. It was actually 4% last year. So they've been efficient with the money. They've reached underserved kids. Great program. Please support it.
Ms. Fritz, you have another question for Mr. Lewis?
I thought I was done with my questions. That's good. Charles, what is your experience working on policies promoting affordable housing?
When I returned from Harvard, I got a master's degree in public policy, where I studied business and government. I worked for Habitat for Humanity and was actually in the trenches building affordable housing for individuals. So, in the trenches, building it, doing it, and it has been a big concern of mine over the years. Obviously, I've spent the past 10 years focused, quite a bit of full-time plus on bringing music education and that equal opportunity for education back to kids. So, I've been in the trenches doing it. It's a very big concern of mine. And the reason is because housing impacts every other portion of our lives. If people cannot afford to live in Portland, if working families and seniors are forced out of Portland, nothing else matters. And for me, that goes back to the values, the fairness, equity, and justice. And that's why it is a big concern of mine to make sure that people can afford to live here in Portland, especially in these difficult economic times.
Ms. Fritz?
I have experience actually working on the policies here in Portland. I remember when I was first getting involved about 17 years ago and Gretchen Kafori was on the council, being in a meeting talking about how it was at that point $500 a day to have someone in the inpatient unit at OHSU, and Gretchen said, $500 a day, I could house them for a month for that much. It's now a lot more. I've also participated in city budgets, every one for the last 10 years, and I will work with the council to make sure that we do get the support from the state that we need.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis, you have one more question for Ms. Fritz.
As someone who's owned and operated a small business, I can attest to the difficulties of doing business in Portland. What do you see as the obstacles to small businesses in Portland, and how would you create and retain jobs here during these particularly difficult economic times?
I will implement the recommendations of the numerous studies and advisory groups that are working on this, the Small Business Advisory Council, the Alliance of Portland Neighborhood Business Associations, and various individuals and business districts are working very hard on this. We first need to address the quality of life issues and provide basic services like transit and parking and sidewalks so that people can get to the small businesses. We need to recognize that small businesses depend on large businesses for their orders, and that running a small business or a nonprofit is not the same as running a large business and a corporation, and that we need to address the needs of the two slightly differently. I'll support training for workers in school and colleges for the target industries, and I'll keep the promise of increasing the owner exemption on business taxes to $125,000.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis?
As I stated before, I think some of the biggest opportunities we have are with the revolving loan program for small businesses. Small businesses make up the vast majority of employment in Portland, and I think the city should do more to really encourage this job creation by investing in businesses. And these small loans, $10,000, $20,000, can go a long ways to creating more job opportunities for small business owners in Portland.
We have time for one more question from the City Club, so I'm going to ask that question, and then we'll go into closing statements. Mr. Lewis, let me start with you. You say that as a city council member, you will work to find innovative funding mechanisms to increase public support for the arts. What kinds of funding mechanisms do you have in mind?
There's a lot we can do. One is leverage more private opportunities and funding for the arts. You know, 80% of my budget at Ethos is from private sources. So I think that's an untapped resource that we can get to encourage more investment directly in the arts. And in addition, you know, we've got the percent for the arts program right now. I would advocate increasing that to 3% for the arts. It makes economic sense in addition to helping expose more people and giving more people to access to the arts as well.
Thank you very much. Ms. Fritz?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, I certainly can. This is a question for Mr. You say that the city council, as a city council member, you will work to find innovative funding mechanisms to increase public support for the arts. What kinds of funding mechanisms do you have in mind?
The Regional Arts Council and others are working very hard on this. I think one of the most important things the City Council can do is recognize that creative arts is one of our target industries, and that while we think of arts for their aesthetic and soul-satisfying purposes, in fact, arts are jobs in our city. We have lots of graphic artists, we have lots of businesses connected with the arts that are providing well-paying jobs, and we need to support that. We also need to continue to implement programs that allow payroll deductions like the United Way deductions so that employees can contribute. And I, as a city commissioner, will make sure that companies know about the statewide tax credits, not deductions, but credits to allow for the arts. I have a cultural trust license plate on my car, and everyone should be looking at big and small ways that we can support the arts in our community because it's part of who we are.
Thank you very much, candidates. We now move to the final portion of the program, 3-minute closing statements from each candidate. We will begin the closing statements with Ms. Fritz.
With the economy uncertain, using taxpayers' money wisely must be the City Council's first priority. The Council must take care of basic needs first: citywide public safety, well-maintained streets, excellent services supporting businesses and schools, decent, affordable housing, and well-paying jobs. These are the building blocks which must be in place while we continue to reach for the Portland of Vision PDX. Using my experience as a registered nurse, I will make sure the city works more closely with Multnomah County to address homelessness and drug addiction. With insights learned in my service on the Portland Planning Commission, I will help guide the Portland Plan to correct problems in zoning and permit systems. As a longtime union worker, supervisor, and nonprofit board member, I understand and respect relationships between employees and management, and I will work for fair contracts within the city and with external contractors. And after 22 years raising my kids in Portland, and 12 years since my parents-in-law retired here, I continue to consider the effect of city council decisions on children and seniors. My life experiences will bring a new, needed perspective to City Hall. My knowledge from working with bureau staff, directors, and council members for 17 years means I won't need extensive orientation or time to adjust, which is important given the pace with which Mayor Adams will push his agenda. Governor Barbara Roberts says I am a long-time community leader who will bring a new perspective to City Hall. I help people move past disagreements to accomplish shared goals. I've worked with a wide range of partners here in Portland: citizen volunteers, nonprofits, agency staff, and elected officials in many jurisdictions. I am already working across boundaries to build stronger relationships within the metro region. I'm endorsed by Ted Wheeler of Multnomah County, Lynn Peterson, Chair of Clackamas County, and Tom Bryant, Chair of Washington County. My supporters include Metro Councilors Rex Burkholder and Robert Liberty, Mayor Tom Potter, and Mayor-elect Sam Adams, 6 state representatives, and 3 state senators. I'm endorsed by 11 unions and by many business leaders. And I'm co-endorsed by the Multnomah County Democrats and the Multnomah County Republicans. Everyone cares about spending taxpayers' money wisely, about jobs and schools, about kids and seniors, and about working together for a more prosperous Portland. We must leave behind the stagnant, divisive politics as usual that in the past has divided East Side and West Side, employers and workers, city staff and citizens, us against them. Public campaign financing has given me the opportunity to run a new kind of campaign, a campaign founded on the goodwill of the people of Portland. I was the first candidate ever to qualify in 2006 and first again in 2008. I know I need twice as many votes to win the runoff as I won in the primary. I'm running this campaign in the style I intend to govern in partnerships with positive goals. I ask for your support in completing this pioneering adventure on November 4th.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lewis.
Okay. Well, as a City Club member, I first want to thank you for all the work that you do hosting these informative and healthy debates. I've discussed some of my priorities in the Q&As, but I wanted to use this opportunity to flesh out some of the larger issues. We need to find innovative solutions to help our schools and children. Portland schools continue to face the effects of years of budget cuts and disinvestments. We do have some tools that can help, though. I have been a strong supporter of the Portland Children's Levy since day one. While some may question whether the city should provide additional support to our schools, I believe that the Children's Investment Fund is a proven, essential program that provides vital services for our underserved youth. I will not sit idly by and watch our schools and children suffer when we have this alternative. My dedication to kids, particularly at-risk kids, and my efforts to help provide students with a well-rounded education is one reason that Stand for Children has endorsed my candidacy. The City of Portland is facing some very difficult economic times. City Council must do more to support small businesses and to create jobs in Portland. We've made good progress, and there is more work to be done. We can create more funding opportunities for small businesses and individuals. Programs such as a revolving loan fund can leverage a tremendous amount of money at very low risk for the city. Small business owners guarantee the loans themselves, resulting in a very low default rate. Small businesses make up the vast majority of employment in Portland, and they provide a stable, homegrown economic base that cannot be replicated with big box stores. We need to invest in housing to make sure working families and seniors can afford to live in Portland. When I came back to Portland, I worked for Habitat for Humanity, helping to build affordable housing. We need to increase housing options and support for local economies and local communities. I support and will work to increase the idea of 20-minute walkable communities that put more housing near job and retail centers. By doing so, we create vibrant neighborhoods, we support local businesses, we reduce traffic congestion, and we reduce carbon emissions. It's just common sense. Innovative solutions, fiscal discipline, and getting real results even with limited resources. That's why I'm running for Portland City Council. I want to bring my dedication to children, to keeping kids on the right track, to promoting walkable communities, and to creating jobs that come and stay in Portland to the Portland City Council. Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to earning your vote in November. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidates.
Please join me in thanking our candidates, our moderator, our panel, and our timekeepers. We're adjourned.